In 2019, I went to Ghana with some friends. And of course, part of that trip, we go to Elmina Castle, a place where Africans were, I can't even say housed, were stored before they got on one of the boats to become, to be enslaved and on their way to America. And in my life, one of the most painful things I've ever seen. So, you're in these dungeons that the floor is thick with my ancestors' feces. That's what you're sleeping on, because they were chained in these dungeons and kept there until it was time for them to get on the boat. Most people died because you can't sleep. You can't survive those conditions typically. And so as part of the tour, you're walking the grounds and they have this one part that there's like this huge plaque thing or on the ground. I don't know what you call it. Almost like a tombstone, but nicer. And the tour guide goes on to tell us about that it was whoever the head, I think it was a priest that was there, that was heading the castle. And I said, so wait. And she does this whole long speech and everybody's listening respectfully. And I said, wait, so you mean to tell me that this priest, I think it was just one, but maybe it was a couple, was in this house, in the castle, while the Africans were in the dungeons, where we'd already learned that they so certainly could be heard wailing and screaming and crying, and the smells of death had to be there. So I said, you're telling me that these priests were there right here, right by these dungeons? And so I literally looked at my African sister and I said, why are we stopping to honor this person? And she looked at me and she was like, basically this is what she's been taught and trained to do. But she respected. She's like, let's move on. But she respected. I was like, why the fuck are we sitting here honoring this murderer, this heartless piece of shit who allowed thousands of people to die and called himself a Christian? What are we doing? What are we doing here? And it made me think about this after Charlie Kirk's death, how people will push false prophets on you. And I think particularly Black people, we've always been trained to bow down and honor and respect even those who hurt us and murder us. We're taught in schools to revere George Washington, a man who wore his enslaved Africans' teeth, that owned over 200 slaves. We're taught to revere Woodrow Wilson, a notorious racist. We are taught and expected to love those who hate us. I won't do it. And I don't think God expects me to do it. I'm not revering. I'm not going to hate back, but I'm not going to honor and revere as it seems as some expect me to. I'm not going to revere this man who said that when he gets on a plane and he sees a Black pilot, he wonders if the pilot can fly. I'm not going to revere a man that called George Floyd a scumbag. I'm not going to revere and said that he was on fentanyl and that man did not put his knee on his neck for those countless minutes. I'm not going to revere a man who said Martin Luther King was, I don't know what he called him, but let's say trash, something similar. I'm not going to revere a man who said that civil rights movement was essentially the worst thing that ever happened and a big mistake. He hated me. He hated my people. He was open about it. He said empathy was something that he hated as well. And yet, this expectation. So no, No to praising those that people tell me I need to praise who were hateful. I will not do it. I will not do it.